Garland in the corner. He's got it.
Feed stands. Pow with the right hand.
Mitchell shakes up to the basket and thunders it home. Oh! Mobley throws it down.
And Allen blocked the shot at the rim.
Welcome to the Chase Down Podcast, part of the Cavs media family. I'm your host, Justin Rowan. The Chase Down is presented by Fubo, the official streaming partner of the Cavs. Watch over 350 channels of live sports and TV, including FanDuel Sports Network without cable. There's no cost and no commitment. Try for free at FuboTV.com/Cavs. The Cavs danced with the Wolves and came away with a split of their home and home and arguably their best win of the season. Joining me today to discuss it is my co-host, Carter Rodriguez. Carter, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. It was a great Saturday for your boy. We had a no-doubter, well-earned Cavalier victory, followed by my first father-daughter dance with a little lady. So it was very, very cute. Very little dancing was done with me. Much was done with her friends. But that was to be expected.
Delightful. That is absolutely delightful. I'm happy to hear that went well. Do you agree that was the best win of the season? It certainly felt the best. The Wolves have been one of the hottest teams of the league. And, you know, it was hard fought, right? Like they took a lead in this game. And in both of those games, really, the Wolves were shooting the living hell out of the ball, right? Like it's not like, oh, you caught them on an off night. Early game, so the shooting wasn't really there. It wasn't kind of the sloppy affair you would expect with some of these afternoon matinee games, but it was just a really, really hard-fought game against a team that's playing their best basketball of the season.
I was inclined to say yes, but I think that Spurs win was more important.
That's a good point.
I think that Spurs win was more important from an identity perspective of like, hey, and it's not like, you know, Gobert's a slouch. He's probably going to win Defensive Player of the Year when Wemby inevitably doesn't get to the 65 games. But like, I just thought that Spurs team was so red hot, and not only were they hot, they had kind of an aura, like a mythos about them. Like they were kind of intimidating teams, I felt, you know?
Yeah.
And like that paint was just not something to be touched against them. And the fact that the Cavs were figuring out how to consistently do it, even on a night where they didn't shoot well and Donovan didn't play well, felt really, really important. And it's not to say that this wasn't a really impressive game, but there was a lot that went right, like, for them in this game. And, like, I always tend to lean towards the games where it's like, you won against a tough opponent almost exclusively because of how you played together, not because of how, you know, the variance swings happened to go your way. And I'm not saying that happened in this game, but that Spurs game felt like their best, like, putting the right foot forward game.
Yeah, and I think we've always been process over results, and you mentioning that it was a poor game for Donovan. It's not like Darius was outstanding in that game either. I think that helped sway me here. I think maybe because the Spurs haven't been as dominant since then. Maybe
we laid the blueprint, Justin.
You know, we kind of let everybody know exactly. We hashtag let them know exactly how to go about beating the Spurs, and everyone is swimming in our wake. But so maybe that is coloring my perception to some extent. But either way, I think that this was a really, really quality win for the Cavs.
Yes.
They've been playing better as of late overall, and in these two games against the Wolves, a very long team that's active defensively, that plays with a lot of physicality. I think that there's some really encouraging signs. They've taken very good care of the basketball. The Saturday game was actually one of their best games in terms of keeping the opposition out of transition. They did a really, really
only
good
9
job
turnovers.
You know, really, really encouraging to see that. And
a 38-9 assist to turnover split is pretty nuts.
It is pretty nuts. And, you know, speaking of nuts turnover splits, since we talked about, hey, Darius, I think that game against the Nuggets, if I'm remembering correctly, had 8 assists to 6 turnovers, which was very atypical for him. But since then, over the last 4 games, he has 26 assists to 4 turnovers.
That's my guy.
That is outstanding. He is back up to a 2.5 assist to turnover ratio on the year. Back to being one of the most efficient ball handlers in terms of playmaking. And I think it's noteworthy too, because the assist percentage is higher than it's been since 22-23. He is assisting on 32.2% of teammates' baskets while he's on the court. So for him to be taking better care of the basketball, looking better physically, I think that is a very large part of this equation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just felt it felt like this was a real Darius is the straw that stirs the drink game. They come out in the first quarter, very competitive quarter, no gripes, no qualms, Like you could poke a little bit at Donovan looking for his own shot a little bit early in the game. But like overall, I didn't leave that first quarter grumpy. And then the second quarter started and I was like, oh guys, like are the rails gonna fall off again? That second quarter started pretty gnarly for them. They weren't able to get clean looks. The few times that Minnesota was getting out into transition and just getting easy buckets on repeat was happening then. And you wouldn't be you wouldn't be ashamed to be like, oh man, is it happening again? And then Darius and Jarrett come out for their shift in the middle of the second, and they reclaim the game. They totally take control back of the game and allow the Cavs to maintain their connection into halftime, where then they just showed up the rest of the way. Yeah. Once we hit, because like first quarter's fine, everyone's kind of chipping in, but that second quarter starts really rough. Evans having a really rough time against Rudy Gobert. Kind of gets sunned a few times on the offensive glass. Gets blocked. It's just like things are a little chunky. Those Darius and Jarrett are the ones who really like kept the vibes going, and then the rest of the team joined them in the second half. And like again, that is the thesis of this team, my friend, at really their best. And like, what do I love is when this team leans into who they are, and who this team is a team with two unbelievable dynamic creating guards and two bigs that can poke at mismatches, that can finish through contact, that can lock down the rim on the other end of the floor. And that's exactly how they won this game, dude.
Yeah, and I was encouraged to see everybody else step up and contribute in the second half. I thought Evan Mobley was a lot more aggressive, and the fact that they had 5 players score over 20 points. The last time that happened, Austin Carr was one of them. For the Cavs, that was great. And Jared wasn't one of them, right? Like Sam Merrill and Jalen Tyson were both fantastic. Tyson hit some really timely threes. Like at this point, the catch and shooting is just it's there, right?
If
like
he's set, I generally think it's gonna go. If he's doing a fade or a drift or off a curl, I'm a little less inclined. But like my belief in a standstill corner 3 for Jalen Tyson is about as high as it gets.
And his shot selection has just improved throughout the season as well, right? Like he is taking smarter shots from 3. When he's taking shots in the paint, he's generally on balance. That little floater in the rim is great. And, I really, really enjoy the development of him as a zone buster too, right? Like that guy that you can kind of go to in the middle. We want Evan to be that guy a lot of the time, but when you have versatility and you have other guys you can go to in that spot, I think that's really important. There were times last year where DeAndre was exceptional at that, and because he's in a slump, I think it's important that you have Jalen Tyson step up and perform in that role.
And to and on that a little bit, you also want to be able to have, especially in Evan at the 5 lineups, you kind of want him lurking along the dunker spot, lurking baseline against those zone looks, because when the middleman has to come up to go challenge someone like Jalen Tyson who's catching it in that pocket of space, you want the lob to be there. You want an easy read. And because this Cavs team just isn't chock full of explosive above the rim athletes, it gets a little harder to find those angles. If Evans at the 5 and you have DeAndre, who's probably going to be spacing, and Darius or Donovan, like none of these guys are your prototypical dunker spot lurkers who are just going to be able to rise up and catch a lob and yam it. So like you get a lot of ancillary benefits of it not being Evan if you're not playing the double big lineup.
Yeah, and I think the redundancies are important too, right? Like it's very, very important that you have multiple guys that you can go to, because I think some of the playoff struggles that we've seen in the past have been, all right, these are the guys that are initiators. These guys are the play finishers. This is our guy that initiates in this spot. And it almost leads to predictability when it comes to the offense, right? And having more guys that you can go to that can perform those roles, that you can change up and throw different looks. Like, I think that's really important. And we saw some of that even on the defensive end against the Wolves too, where against Anthony Edwards, he saw a different defender basically every possession to start the game, right? Sometimes it's Donovan, sometimes it's Darius, sometimes it's Sam, right? Like just throwing different looks and making guys have to read and adjust on the fly rather than allowing them to be comfortable, I think is so important. And not that it was a tremendous defensive performance for the Cavs, and I thought there were lapses in both of these Wolves games, but the Wolves also hit a lot of contested shots. Like I don't think that this was abnormal in terms of the number of clean looks that the Cavs were conceding. They were just shooting the hell out of the ball, and the Cavs fortunately were just as hot from three.
Yeah, I wanted to say regarding Anthony Edwards, I really loved what they did defensively on him. I thought, they did the live and die by the jumper thing with him. Yep. They gave him space. They gave him, they went under on screens. They switched and gave him a favorable mismatch and just kind of banked that, like, hey, if our shell is intact, like, he's not going to want to get all the way to the rim. And he ends up going 10 of 24, and 25 points on 24 shots helps you weather a 16 of 32 shooting night from three for the rest of the Wolves. Well, I guess that includes his numbers, but you get what I'm saying. And so, like, I just think you got to give a lot of love to the coaching staff there and the players for executing the scheme really well. And like some of that is Ant is so unbelievably talented that like sometimes he's just going to kill you. And like, even with that strategy, there were a few times where he just went like right into the paint and put his shoulder and he knocked Evan into the other.
Killed you with the pass, right?
Yeah.
Like he's such a brilliant player.
Yeah, like in a couple of the drives he did get, he put Cavs into the basket just by being an absolute physical freak from a strength perspective. But like overall, you got a mostly set of contested jumpers. And like you have to be really happy with that. And I think a lot of credit goes to Sam, Darius, and Donovan on the defensive end there. Because I just thought they held their own as well as you could reasonably expect them to. And I wanted to give a little extra shout out. I think this is a good matchup for Donovan. Donovan, I think there are guys where I just don't like the matchup, like the shifty change of pace kind of guards, the Brunsons of the world. I feel like those are the guys that Donovan has the hardest time with. When he can just go like freak for freak with them, and just be like, all I have to do is be stronger than I should be, and longer than I should be, and quick footed. He can hang. And I thought he probably guarded Ant the best of the three. And like normally it's not something I would go out of my way to say about Donovan.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think the other area where he struggles sometimes is guys that are really good off ball, right? Like when they're really involved. And I think the Wolves have gotten better over the years of accessing Anthony Edwards off ball. I think they're using him in more and more creative ways. And I think he's grown in that aspect. But it's still not at the level of like, obviously Steph Curry's like your 100th percentile off-ball type player, but those guards that can really kill you without the ball in their hands, I think sometimes that's where Donovan struggles a bit. But I do appreciate you bringing up, the good defense out of all of those guards, because obviously we know Sam Merrill has stepped up beyond even what we saw last year.
He's the best defensive year of his career.
Easily. And the tracking data supports that he's a whole lot better. But I do want to give a shout out to both Darius and Donovan, because the last time we talked about this, it was maybe a month ago. Darius was down in the 15th percentile. Donovan was down in the 7th percentile in terms of that isolation defense. Now DG's up to the 62nd percentile. So, much, much more in line with the last few years of his career. Donovan's up to the 63rd as well in terms of perimeter isolation defense, right? And big thanks to the B-ball index that comes up with this tracking data. Ball screen defense, Darius is still really strong, 90th percentile in terms of navigating and suppressing shots in that spot. Donovan, 82nd. So I do think that those two playing so well and playing better two-way basketball has been an important part of this equation.
Yeah, I do generally feel like the defense has just been a little bit better as of late. I know they've given up some pretty hefty point totals these last two games. But like, and they don't have like a lot of these like that Detroit game where they gave up 95. Like they're giving up, 100, 110 points, but you hold the Spurs to 101. Like you're not having these crazy lapses, and I think even when they've had some of these games, 134 to Minnesota, that's nothing to be proud of by any means. I'm sure the staff probably would be shaking their heads at me saying this. I do think some of this they've been getting burned a little bit on variance.
I've got some stats on that. Don't you worry. There's definitely some variance there. But
my eyes are seeing a general, at least in the half court. In transition, I still see a lot of whoopsies or lack of communication. But in the half court, I'm seeing generally a better commitment to just staying in front of your man. Like so much of this team is predicated on you got to at least put up some resistance so the help can get over there.
Yeah. And when that's working well, I think it's evident, right? Like that's one of those things that you can see with the eye test of when a team is functioning properly and working in sync, because teams move fastest and they look best when everybody's in sync, Carter. Zoom Workplace keeps meetings, chats, documents, and more together so your work flows like a perfect play. Keep work moving and zoom ahead with Zoom Workplace. I do think we'll get into the shooting variance in a moment, but I do think it's kind of noteworthy because to look back at these last couple of weeks, I think the first time that we felt the Cavs kind of really feel like themselves was that win against the Hornets, right? The ball was moving. They were using the bigs. It was those two games against the Hornets and Pelicans going into Christmas where we felt, okay, they're starting to build some positive momentum before one of the toughest stretches of the season. And I want to look at these last 11 games, and Cavs are 7-4 over that stretch. Good, not remarkable, but I do think it's worth noting who the competition has been over the stretch. And I think it's one of those indicators that, hey, the Cavs might actually be playing better basketball than their record suggests, because out of those 11 games, 7 of those 11 games have come against teams that are in the top 10 in net rating for this current stretch. Like if I'm looking back from December 22nd till now, these are some of the hottest teams in the league. So you are playing against teams that are playing really well at the right time. I think it feels a little bit worse. One, because it's 7-4. It's nothing remarkable. And I think the other part of it is these have been winnable games that they have lost, with the exception of the Houston one, right? Like that Christmas Day game against the Knicks really should have had that one, right? Like if you win that and you're 8-3.
Yeah, it's not exciting that they're blowing games, but it is good that they're in them.
Right. You win that one and you're 8-3, you feel a whole lot better. That game against Detroit, absolutely a winnable game. And honestly, that first game against Minnesota, I think was a winnable game, right? Like they got themselves back in it. And I think what you're seeing from the Cavs is fewer and fewer of those big lapses, of those big collapses. There are still times where guys are pressing, right? You talked about Donovan at the start of the Wolves game. We've seen Darius force the issue at times, but it's becoming less frequent. And I actually think that the decision to start Craig Porter Jr. against the Wolves is almost an example of Kenny pressing to some extent.
Yeah, I think that's a good take.
I like, all right, and against Sam, I know Sam's got great defensive numbers and everything, but like let's put Craig out there. He's been playing really well. He gives you some physicality. Maybe he's going to help unlock the offense against this very long rangy team. I feel like, as I said, I think that is almost an example of Kenny pressing when we don't really need to reinvent the wheel. What we kind of need to do right now is acknowledge that we actually have 4 wheels that work very, very well. And when they are properly inflated and everything, and those 4 wheels are Garland, Mitchell, Mobley, and Allen. And
they're in alignment.
When they're all in alignment, when we're using all 4 of them, when we're not trying to become a 3-wheeler or something that we aren't, this team operates at a very, very high level. And the Cavs won those minutes without Craig at small forward by 12 in that first game against Minnesota. Obviously, they won the second game by 12. They played really, really well outside of that. And I think the overall direction of this team is going in the right direction. And my hope is that as they gain more positive momentum, as they continue to stack these positive habits, that the pressing, whether it's from the coaching staff, whether it's from the players, it becomes less and less frequent. And you just, success breeds more success.
Yeah, settle
basically
into who you are. And by the way, on the Craig note, I think neither of us were super huge fans of that move. That lineup just hadn't played any minutes together. So it's like not like it's because we saw something on tape with that 3-guard lineup against a team that big. But one thing I didn't really get to see brought up is I think it almost made it a little harder on Craig because Craig couldn't play the game he's used to playing because he doesn't normally play with those two. So you watch this game again, the second game against Minnesota, he still gets 26 minutes, a huge chunk of time, despite having a very bad scoring game. He goes 0 of 4 from the field, 0 of 2 from 3, but he gets 8 assists and 6 rebounds, 3 offensive, a steal. Like that's exactly the kind of game I want my backup point guard to have, especially on this team, especially when the other players are scoring at the rate they're scoring. So it's like, I just think, like, again, leaning back into, like, consistent identity is, like, the number one KPI for this team for the next month, and maybe onward. And like, I think, like, going back to that group. And by the way, did you know that they hadn't started that 5-some with Merrill this season?
No, they had.
That's what Danny Cunningham said on Locked On Cavs. He was like, I went and checked it. And apparently,
that's unbelievable.
Apparently, one of Evan or Jarrett must have been out at various points whenever they've started Sam. I fell out of my chair and I was driving. It was really dangerous, Danny. Don't do that to me.
You almost made me fall out of my chair on the damn podcast. You would have had to go solo for a little bit.
I know. So but that's a group that's vlogged a lot of minutes together in their day, and they looked comfortable. And God, man, I gotta give another shout out to Sam. He's just been so phenomenal. 5 of 6 from 3. He's like 58% from 3 over his last 5 or 6 games. Just shooting the absolute cover off the ball. Playing so physical. Got his ass kicked in this game, by the way. He was on the floor with some hard... Like, I would like to think I can be honest with an accounting of, like, selling. I think he was just getting hit a lot.
He was getting hit a lot. And can I just say, I really enjoyed how that game was officiated. You know, it's too often we'll complain or whatever if we feel that there's inconsistency. I thought that game was almost officiated like a playoff game where they really were allowing a lot of physicality. I thought the ref stepped in the right moments and everything. I thought it was a really, really hard fought physical game.
Never got ugly either. Because sometimes you don't want a loose whistle where that allows guys to start hurting each other. So, like, I thought it was, like, a very well-towed line. But Sam was getting his ass kicked, and yet he still kept getting up, didn't quit on plays when he got knocked over. I just think he really injects a lot into this team. Just the constant activity. I think it really, again, I think it applies an internal pressure to the team to, like, manage their business whenever he's out there. He's just never someone I'm sad to see on the court right now, and I'm gonna have to my dumb fish brain is gonna have to remember this when he inevitably has a slump at some point, because I mean it's been a pretty nonstop good time ride with Sam this season. He had like 2 games where he didn't shoot well, and that's it.
This 11-game stretch, the sample, he's shooting 49-48 from the field. Like, yeah, he's pretty hot.
So, like, I need to remember that and not get grumpy when a shooter does what shooters do, which is eventually have a few off games. But I just think all the soft stuff has really been there for him all year. And again, the defense is better than it's ever been. I don't feel like he's gonna get beat. I feel like he'll hang. And again, on this team, all you need to do is hang.
He should be the starter for the foreseeable future, right? And I'm including when Max comes back, because I think you're going to have to bring Max along slowly. It's going to take him some time to get back into form if he does return to form, right? Like, I think, if you run into a situation where Max is just going to be kind of 80% of himself, if that's kind of the reality that you're faced with, maybe you have a conversation going into playoffs of, hey, are we going to mix in some Jalen Tyson with the core, see how that works? Because we might need to go to this just from a size and physicality standpoint. But Sam plays larger than his size, and I think that's really important. But going back to what I was saying before about, the core 4 works. If you take out the Craig possessions, which now I'm going to have to do all season just because that went so poorly, and, To Kenny's credit, I do want to say, one, even though it wouldn't have been the decision I made, I can at least understand what the thought process was for it. And the results were worse than the process, right? Like the Wolves shot the living hell out of the ball. I think they were like 7 of 9 from three against that lineup. Like that is some noise in a small sample. So it didn't necessarily have to be as bad. But if I'm looking at kind of the core four this season, taking out the Craig possessions, they are 96th percentile offensively. They are 92nd percentile defensively and 98th overall in terms of net rating. Like this is 260 possessions. We know that this lineup works. And again, this is one of the key differences between what happened 2 years ago when the Cavs kind of had the season from hell from an injury standpoint and this year. We have something that we know works, and we're just starting to see more and more of it, right? And I still think even within there is room for Darius to continue playing better. There's a lot of room for Evan to play better, right? Like I think he's been a rep, particularly on the defensive glass. I think he needs to round back into form and get back to the level he was playing at prior to hurting the calf, because I actually thought he was playing really good basketball at the time. And that second half and his assertiveness within the half and the decisiveness going up with the takes, like to me, that's the biggest thing is when he's hesitating, that's when mistakes happen. If he is not hesitating and he's being decisive, I will live with those results 10 out of 10 times.
Well, and just not to turn this into a Locked On Cavs re-listen podcast, the re-listenables, but
shout out Danny.
Shout out our guy Danny. But you know, he talked a lot about like how like, you know, that kind of the dream shake that everyone's talking about that he got Gobert on, how that's a different kind of pump fake than the standard Evan pump fake. An attempt was truly sold, and then he not only just went up after the fake, he went up nasty. Like, and I think like there's a degree of that is like, it's not that I need you to, like the second you catch the ball that you have to go up right away. Like this is the NBA. If you attack, you know, like for like on another defender that's in good position, it's going to be hard to finish consistently. Like you have to apply craft to what you're doing, and sometimes that means a hesitation or a fake or whatever it may be. But when you go up, you can't go up weak, even if you've got a slight advantage, and especially if your pump fake doesn't work, you got to go up nasty and try to finish through guys, because in this league, you're just going to get blocked if you go up without anything other than 100 percentile aggression. And I thought that's what he did the entire second half.
Where a pump fake really is effective is when you've created an advantage. When you run into a dead end and you start pump faking the ball, the defender says, I get to stand here and potentially block, or at least, you know, I'm just going to hold my ground here. You have not created an advantage, and I am not going to allow you to manufacture one by pump faking the ball. Evan got that play because he created an advantage. He got by Rudy, did the little fake. Rudy bit on it, trying to recover, and then he was able to attack aggressively, right? So I think when you run into a dead end, you are better off giving up the ball than trying to manufacture in that spot, because I think that's obviously true for Evan, and it's true for the Cavs overall, right? Like their isolation turnover percentage, they rank 29th in the league in terms of how frequently they turn over the ball in those situations. And I think that is them.
That's a great ball.
That's them being in these dead end situations, trying to force things, right? And that gets back to what I was talking about how this team needs to kind of get out of their own way in some regards. Of they have been pressing this season. I think everyone across the roster has been guilty of it, and it's a natural thing when you are in a funk. And I think getting this win against Minnesota is so important, right? Because we understand that they have been playing a lot of very good teams. They've been playing the hottest teams in the league. If you are 6-5, that feels a lot worse than 7-4, right? And I want to kind of look at this stretch and see what's been working well for them, because over this stretch, they are fourth in offensive rating. The 120.4 offensive rating. They are third in terms of half-court offense. Fantastic. They are eighth in transition scoring. They are getting out and running. 12th in rim frequency and 13th in three-point frequency. So you're actually seeing now a healthier distribution versus when they were leading the league in terms of frequency of 3-point shots and they weren't getting to the rim. Now you're seeing that balance. And I think that is leading to a healthier offensive ecosystem. They're actually taking fewer wide open threes per game compared to their season average, about one less than their season average, but they're shooting 47% on them. And this gets back to what I was talking about before, that the Cavs need to start shooting better, and they were probably going to at some point. And now we have an extended sample over 11 games of them shooting a whole lot better on those open looks they're generating.
Not to be captain, make the stats fit the way I feel, but I'm going to do that real quick, which is I do think, and I tried to make this argument even when they were missing it, which is I think how you generate those wide open threes does have something to do with it. Like think about what these guys are practicing with. Most of their passes are coming from under the basket when they're just doing their shooting drills. They're not getting a lot of swings around the perimeter during drills when they're just practicing during the week. I think a wide open three generated from a drive and kick. I don't have the numbers, and I'd be curious to have if it could be analyzed. But I suspect that a wide open three on a drive and kick is traditionally a higher percentage three than one generated from swinging around the perimeter. I just think that's you look at the comfort of the shooter. The ball can be thrown directly into their shooting pocket in a way that you can't always do that when you're swinging around the side. And I feel like they're earning their looks and they're earning their makes at a higher level than they were earlier in the season. So I'm not fazed that much like I wasn't that impressed by their open 3-point volume early in the season. I'm now not fazed by a drop off because I just think my eyes are showing me a better process.
Yeah. And I think that's reflected in the numbers of them having a higher rim frequency, right? Just because obviously the rim frequency is only really counting the shots that are taken at the rim. But when you're taking more shots at the rim, that means in general, you're getting into the paint more frequently and you're generating those types of looks, right? Like Darius over this 11-game stretch, he's averaging 11 points per game 18 points per game off of his assists. And he's generating 7 3-point attempts, right? So that's coming in those drive and kick situations. The one thing I'll say about the shooting, though, just kind of overall, this is going more larger picture for the season versus this 11-game sample, is some of this stretch has been lucky. They are 21st in 3-point corner frequency and 16th on the season. Last season, they were 6th. In general, those corner 3-point shots are the better quality looks. You want to generate those, and those are typically the ones you get from those drive and kick situations. So I would like them to see them trend back towards at least their season average of 16th and improve upon that, because I do think that is one of those areas that's lacking. And I think
to some extent, though, sorry to interrupt, but I'm interested in what you think about this. So to some extent, do you think that's in part due to the personnel that's been available to them this season? Who are the guys you're going to expect to shoot the most corner threes? It's Sam and Max. Sam missed a huge percentage of the season. DeAndre is a guy who prefers to take a lot of above the break threes.
Yeah, true.
Tyson takes a decent amount. Craig really isn't a corner three shooter. Generally, he's going to take his threes above the break. I just feel like there might be something there where the personnel might be driving that slight change in shot profile, and maybe that's not going to change. I don't know.
Maybe to some extent, that's why I'd say get back closer to where they were before, where it's at least a league average rate rather than 21st, right? Because as much as DeAndre is going to take those shots above the break, he is someone that will spot up in the corner, right? We park him there plenty, and I think a decrease in those number of attempts might have something to do with the shooting drop off. I think I actually want to get into that in more detail in terms of DeAndre shooting in a moment, but I think that is something that I would like to see improve, right? And I'm just surprised that in a stretch where we're getting more paint touches and we're getting more rim frequency, that's leading to fewer corner 3-point attempts. But the interesting thing is, so they're hitting a ton of these open threes. I think you can expect some of that to come down. Just like when they were missing all of those open shots, we expected it to come up. It is going to normalize. Like they're not going to shoot this hot forever. If I'm looking at the defense over this 11 game stretch, they do rank 20th. They are 17th in half court defense. They are allowing the 10th fewest transition opportunities. So at least that transition defense, the frequency is coming down. Still not very effective in terms of how they're stopping those attempts when they do happen. There are those lapses, but at least it's becoming less frequent, and they are getting back and forcing teams into half-court possessions. They're allowing 18.6 wide open three-point attempts per game over this stretch, which is ranked 16th. So fewer than average in terms of the league average, but the opponents are shooting 46% on those shots. So again, we are shooting unsustainably hot. Our opponents are shooting unsustainably hot. And
it's nice to be back to that, though.
it is nice. It is nice to be back to that. It is a lot more fun than they're hot and we're not. But going back to those corner shots being the most effective, I was looking at that. Is this maybe an explanation in terms of why opponents are shooting so well? They're 15th in terms of corner three-point frequency defensively, 12th on the season. So they're actually allowing fewer over this stretch. Teams are just shooting 51% on those shots, Carter. League average is 39% on those shots. So that is kind of your loud noise variant. So they're probably better defensively than they've been playing over the stretch and have got a little unlucky. But again, when it comes to, hey, the offense for us is going to come down, I would say you'd want to balance that out with continuing to get better quality shot attempts, understanding that you're not going to sustainably be this hot from three.
Very, 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 very well researched, my friend. And before we say goodbye, do you want to talk a little bit about DeAndre Hunter? Because I know you pulled some interesting stuff there.
Yeah.
Just still hasn't really come up for air yet. It's still been pretty rough. He played 21 minutes in that win against Minnesota, went 1 of 5 from the field. Just, not finding what you need from him. Really, I mean, there's plenty to poke at with rebounding, with, off-ball defense and things like that. But at the end of the day, the whole thesis is none of that matters if he's hitting his, being an elite shot maker, which he has been for much of his career, and certainly was last year, both with the Hawks and the Cavs. Just hasn't been the case yet. What have you found with our dear friend DeAndre?
Well, before I get into the stats with DeAndre, I just want to say, I think when we talk about guys that are pressing, he might be at the top of the list. And I really hope that as the team plays better overall, it puts him into a more comfortable context. And maybe he is someone that just needs 2-3 games of hot shooting to break out of this funk, because last year, as you said, he was one of the most effective shot makers, and he was a very strong perimeter isolation defender. We need him to get back to that. I think sometimes when the offense drops off, it's going to lead to drop off on defense. And we're seeing that with DeAndre. The 3-point shot quality is worse for him this year. He was 87th percentile in terms of how good the looks were that he got last year. That's down to 39th. So that's a big drop off. But if you take the 3-point shot making, which is adjusted for shot difficulty, last year he was 85th percentile. This year it's down to 5th. So even accounting for the drop off in shot quality, it is way, way down. Last year, catch and shoot shot efficiency from 3 was 81st percentile. It's down to 14th. And his off-ball gravity, he was actually 95th percentile in terms of how close people stayed to him off-ball. This year, it's down to 70th percentile. So again, this is how, success breeds more success. Hitting shots is going to open up the paint for everybody else, which is going to open up further catch and shoot opportunities for you, right? Like
I've got some stats myself for our friend DeAndre. And to your point about maybe finding his way into the corners, being a little bit helpful. DeAndre has taken 44 corner threes this season. He's taken 149 above the break threes.
Oh, geez.
He is shooting 28.2% on above the break threes, 42 of 149. On the left corner, he's 8 of 25, which also isn't great. It's 32%. Right corner, he's 9 of 19, 47%. So, maybe just a little bit of a distribution change that says, hey, let's just get you into a space where we know there's going to be comfort, and like see how that serves us. Couple other notes on wide open threes. He's still shooting fine. He's getting 2.3 attempts a game from that are wide open at 39.5%. That's not crazy, but it's not like a disaster. The disaster is when he's kind of guarded, when he's got a defender within 4 to 6 feet away. He has taken 2.6 attempts a game. He's at 22.8%.
And those are the ones that feel forced, right?
Like and like, but to some extent, like that is the job for him. Like,
he is
that's his job.
Shot maker.
His job is to make harder shots, and he's just not making them. And like, I think that's why maybe a drift to the corner and maybe just a bit of like, hey, you're just gonna need to be like for the next month, DeAndre, be Bruce Bowen, guard and run to the corners. And like we'll work on fleshing out the rest of your game, but we just need you to get yourself stable, because right now there's not a lot for DeAndre's game that I think is stabilizing his minutes out there, and it's making the bottom fall out of some of his lineups as a result. And like, I just want to see him find his way back, even if it's not to last year's standards, which were the best year of his career standards, but just
career
to
norms.
His standards, writ large.
Yeah. And to bring this all back home, right? Like, particularly if we're going to be missing Dean Wade for a time, there's probably going to be a lot of DeAndre at the 4, coming in off the bench in those one big lineups. Having someone like Jalen Tyson operate at the top of the key means that you can put DeAndre in the corner with Mobley or Allen, baseline. You have the guards up top. You can manufacture those opportunities a whole lot easier, and hopefully that can get him going, right? Because, again, it's my favorite and least favorite thing about basketball. Every aspect of it is connected, right? When things start working well in one facet, it opens up other things. When things aren't working, it usually causes a cascading effect. That's why when things are bad, they're usually never as bad as it actually feels. And when things are good, it feels like nothing can go wrong, but it's a much more delicate ecosystem than you think. But hopefully the Cavs are able to sustain that. This game against Utah, absolutely one that they should win to maintain positive momentum. Then they got a real test, these back-to-back games against Philly on the road. That is a real opportunity for them to make up ground, because right now they're just 3 games back of the 3 seed. So the Cavs have a real opportunity to make a statement.
And Philly just, I believe, just lost to Toronto.
Hell yeah. Love to see that. The real opportunity to gain some positive momentum. So we'll see if they are able to do so. We won't be podcasting together for a little bit, Carter.
All right. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
We won't be podcasting together for a couple episodes, as you'll be away and then I'll be away next week. So looking forward to hopefully a good stretch of Cavs basketball where we can come back together and celebrate. Big thanks to everyone tuning in live on YouTube. We appreciate you guys. Make sure you like and subscribe. Click that notification bell so you know when we're going live. If you're listening via podcast and you want to support us, leave us a rating, leave a review, subscribe, unsubscribe, resubscribe, and help cook those books. If you want to be part of Chase Down's exclusive Discord chat, send a screenshot of the view to chasedownpod@gmail.com. However you choose to support us, we really do appreciate it. Make sure you guys are staying safe out there. Until next time, go Cavs.